by Love Tim by Brynthewriter. Rating: Teen and Up audiences. Archive warnings. Creator chose not to use archive warnings. No archive warnings apply. Fandoms: Batman, all media types. Batman comics. Relationship: Batfamily members and Tim Drake. Characters: Tim Drake, Dick Grayson, Stephanie Brown, Duke Thomas, Cassandra Cain, Jason Todd, Damian Wayne, mentioned Barbara Gordon, Lex Luthor. Additional tags: Tim Drake angst, angst with a happy ending, hurt/comfort, emotional hurt/comfort, PODFIC welcome, fan art welcome, fanfic inspired by my fanfic welcome, AI absolutely not welcome. Language English. Series. This is part of Bryn's Fix, the series. Check out other works in their series. Link is in description for the fic. Summary. Tim's had enough. Enough of the murder attempts, enough of his siblings doubting him. So he calls them to say he's leaving. Or at least that's what Dick hears Tim say over the phone. But is that really what he feels? Notes. Welcome to an angst fic with a twist that leads to a happy ending. I hope you enjoy. That was Bryn's notes, and they also said in the summary, but I moved it here, if you want pure angst, only read chapter 1. The first line of the summary is for you. If you're like me and you want angst to have a happy ending, read the whole thing. The whole summary is for you. And that's the end of Bryn's notes, and my notes are, the audio might be weird, a bit funky. It's because I'm messing around with stuff, and I'm sorry. Chapter 1. Dick. Tim, what do you mean you're not coming home? Dick was frantic. I meant what I said. His voice sounded cold, even over the phone. Tim, please. No, Dick. Absolutely not. I am never returning to Wayne Manor. How much clearer do I need to be? Dick felt his knees buckle as he sank into the couch. Tim, why? Why? Are you seriously asking me that? Yes, I don't understand, Dick said as he tried to hold back tears. The idea of his younger brother never coming back home again was almost too much to bear. Let's think for a moment, Tim said, sarcasm dripping from his voice. Maybe because I can't stop wondering when the next attempt on my life will be? Tim, you don't have to be a vigilante. I meant from one of my brothers. Dick froze. Do you know how many times Damien has tried to kill me? Jason too, though he's a lot better about it recently. I lost count, Dick. Damien has tried to kill me so many times, and he's never once apologized or shown remorse. Yeah, he hasn't done it in about a year, but I spend literally every day wondering when the ball is going to drop and he's going to try again. I swear to God, Dick, if the next words out of your mouth are, he's just like that, or he's just a kid, and you try to tell me I can't blame him, then I'm going to hang up this call. I get that he was raised in a fucked up way. Trust me, I do. But he's been with us for 3 years. You think he'd at least have learned the words "I'm sorry" and when to use them while living under the same roof as Alfred Pennyworth. But he doesn't care. He's happy he tried to kill me and upset it didn't work. So I don't know when Damien's going to try and kill me next, but I live in pretty much constant fear of his next attempt on my life, knowing he won't feel sorry when he does because he never has. And if he's not sorry, then he'll do it again. I was going to say he's just now starting to understand remorse, and I'm sure he'll apologize soon. Yeah, it took him a while to get there, but you're right. After all this time with us, he is learning. Learning remorse for current actions hasn't extended to past actions yet, but he's getting there, Dick whispered, knowing this wasn't enough to justify it. That doesn't make it okay, Dick, especially because no one ever stopped him. When you caught us fighting, you didn't yell at us for it. You got upset that we were fighting in Crime Alley. Tim's tone was unforgiving, and honestly, Dick felt like he deserved it. And speaking of you, That's another reason I'm leaving. You didn't have the basic decency to talk to me before taking Robin away from me. If you'd sat me down and walked me through your decision, maybe it would have been okay. But no, you told Damien he could have it, and I got to find out from him because he was being smug about it. That one, I don't blame on him. That one's all on you. Dick stared at the floor. You're right, he whispered. I could have talked to you. I should have sat you down and explained. And even if I made the decision without you anyway, it still should have come from me. You shouldn't have heard the news from Damien. Tim was right. Dick had fucked up, and he'd fucked up so bad. He'd thought they were past this, but he never even apologized for it. No shit, Sherlock. Are you proud of yourself? You deduced the right thing because I held your hand and walked you to the answer. I'm sorry, Tim, Dick responded, ignoring Tim's cruel, mocking tone. I should have apologized for it then, and for not believing about Bruce. I'm sorry. Oh, look, you figured out another reason I'm upset. How many times have people come back from the dead in this family, and you couldn't take 2 seconds to examine my theories with me? Couldn't be bothered to at least have someone tail me while I tripseed around the world with no one but the fucking League of Assassins as my backup? Maybe a tracker or two. No, you were fine letting me go then, so why is it such a big deal now? Tim's voice was filled with more rage than Dick had ever heard it have before. I should have made a big deal about it then. I was preoccupied, but that's no excuse. No, it's not. And while I'm listing reasons, circling back to the murder attempts, Jason also hasn't apologized. We're all so busy tiptoeing around his feelings because we want him back so bad. But what about my feelings? He's the one who tried to kill me. I haven't received an apology for that either. I still wonder if he's gonna try again on his worst days. Yeah, I'd love to have him back in the family, don't get me wrong, but not at the cost of my own life. And the more I paid attention, the more I realized that between Jason and Damien, I had a very high chance of dying in that house, and you would have stood by and let it happen. So goodbye, Dick. I'm never coming back home again. Not that I should call it home to begin with. Before Dick could even reply, he heard the beep that indicated that Tim had hung up. He stared at the phone in despair, tears flowing from his cheek. He pinched himself, hoping it was all an illusion or a bad dream, but it was real. Jason came into the room a few minutes later and sat down on the couch next to him. I heard a bit of your conversation on accident, and when you started apologizing to Tim, I got incredibly worried. So I hacked into the recording files Babs made for all our calls and listened to the recording of what just happened. He's right. I never apologized. I felt bad about it, sure, and I tried to show it, but I never truly apologized. It was sweet to hear him say he wanted me in this family, but after hearing the rest of that call, I'm not so sure I deserve it. Dick put a hand on his brother's shoulder. Of course you do, Jason. You don't have to earn a place in this family. You are family no matter what. And so is Tim. I'm not letting him go that easily. Dick stood up and wiped away his tears. I'm pulling up his trackers. As they walked to the cave, Dick remembered the rest of what Jason had said. You feel sorry, right? Trying to kill him? Absolutely. Then when we see him next, apologize. That's the plan. And preferably find a way to make it up to him. Not that I'm sure I can make it up to someone for something like that. You can always try. Seems like I'll be trying too. Jason put a hand on Dick's shoulder tentatively. We'll do it together. Now let's go find our little brother. Despite the horrible circumstances, Dick couldn't help but smile. How was that? Perfect. Chapter 2. Death. Summary. Steph attempts to reach out to Tim. What do you mean his trackers are offline? Steph demanded. How is that possible? It shouldn't be. They're subdermal. Even Drake is not insane enough to remove them, Damien replied. Hey, no calling him insane. You and I both heard that recording. He's upset enough at you for being an asshole to him. Don't make it worse on accident, Steph chided. Damien looked at the ground. I see your point. Thank you for the advice, Brown. I shall be more careful about my language. Thanks. You've come a long way, kiddo. You can accept advice now, she observed with a smile. I can, but that is hardly the point. Grayson, have you found any other method of pinpointing him? No, he's been very careful. Can't trace the call, can't pinpoint his phone's location, can't even tell if he's still on the continent or if he's used one of his many fakes to leave. I can't even figure out when he left the manor last. Dick did not look happy about this news. Steph wasn't thrilled either. Her best friend, well, not counting the other Batgirls, was missing and never coming back, and they couldn't even find him to bring him back by force. Shit, Jason replied. Fuck it, I'm gonna try calling him. Steph pulled out her phone and dialed, only to be hung up on after a ring and a half. Voicemail, she reported. Don't know why, but she stopped talking as a text from Tim appeared at the top of her screen. It read, Fuck off, Steph. I'm not letting you try to convince me to come back. I'm not doing it. She read the text out loud. Well, at least he recognizes that I am a shot at convincing him, she commented as she flipped her ponytail. Yeah, but if he's not accepting calls from you, then it's really bad, isn't it? Dick said. No kidding, Steph replied. Tim's really not planning on ever coming back. I look forward to working with you. This is going to be fun. Chapter 3. Duke. Summary. Duke tries to reach out to. Duke, listen, I know you're only trying to call because they asked you to. You managed not to have a single reason for me to put you on my shit list, which in this family is quite impressive. Even Steph has visited my shit list once or twice, but if you keep trying to contact me, you will definitely end up on it. The text read. Wow, so much for that plan, Duke said as he looked around at his siblings who were anxiously hanging on to every word as he read the text out loud. So that's it? No one can get Tim? We're just never going to see Tim again? Steph asked, sounding like she was on the verge of tears. It appears so. I find myself regretting not apologizing to him sooner, Damien commented. Duke was proud of the kid, even if it was too little too late. At least he'd finally expressed remorse about what he'd done. It was big progress. No kidding, Jason muttered. I'm more regretting that any of this ever happened in the first place, Dick chimed in. How did we even let it get this bad? Duke choked out a laugh. Are you kidding me? Look at this family. None of us can express our emotions worth a damn. And in a vigilante environment, that makes every emotional situation so much worse because it has a much bigger impact every time. Damien looked thoughtful at his words, while Jason just looked pissed. Although, if Duke had to guess, he would have said Jason was pissed because he was right. Steph was nodding, and Dick had his head in his hands. Is there really nothing we can do? It's too late to get our brother back? Jason asked softly. I think it might be, Duke replied, staring back down at the phone in his hands, wishing it would buzz with a text from Tim saying he was just joking. No such text came. Your brilliant mind will be quite the asset for this project. Thank you, Mr. Luther. Chapter 4. Cass. Summary. What has really been going on here? Time to find out. Notes. Alright, y'all have waited long enough. Here you go. Smiley face. When Cass finally caught up with Tim, she did not expect to find his clone first. She recognized it wasn't Tim in the way he moved, clunky like he was still getting used to his body, as opposed to Tim's trained grace. Tim had been taught by his parents to move elegantly, and then taught to be an acrobat and a fighter. He was very sure of himself when he moved, so this was not Tim, despite the visible similarities. And judging by the fact that he was speaking with Lex Luthor, he was probably an evil clone. It took her another few minutes of sneaking around the rafters before she finally found the real Tim. He was in a pod hooked up to a machine that connected to other pods. Each one contained various geniuses, all of whom had gone missing a week before reappearing. Perfectly fine, but with no memory of the week. Considering Tim's family were vigilantes, and judging by the calls her siblings had sent her the recordings of, they'd taken a different approach with Tim. He'd still exist in the public eye, but his clone wouldn't go near his family to avoid suspicion. Cass quickly found the controls, and with Oracle's help over the comms, she disabled them. The pods popped open one by one, and alarms began to sound. From the sounds of footsteps rushing toward her, she only had a minute until the guards arrived. Steph darted between the pods, slipping spare trackers into the pockets of every genius who was in the process of waking up and removing themselves from their now open pods so she could make sure they all got home safely. They all seemed disoriented, as if waking up from a deep sleep as they tried to stand up. The guards came rushing around the corner, and Cass began disabling them one by one, knocking them out and leaving their bodies strewn across the floor. As she finished the last guard, she heard Tim walking up behind her and turned to him. "Hey, Black Bat," he said. "What's happening?" "I would also like to know," someone else chimed in. "Kidnapped, put in pods, replaced with clones. Here to rescue you. It's a shame you won't be getting very far with them," Luther said as he walked into the room, flanked by an even larger group of guards. "I value my think tank quite a bit, and I do not plan to let you run off with them." "Hold on, why replace us with clones when you could have the clones be the think tank?" Tim pointed out. "Because, while I can give your clones your memories, they do not have your intellect. I can have them make sound conclusions based on their memories, but creating new ideas from scratch using nothing but their genius? That's a task reserved for human minds, apparently. A pity." "It's a shame," Tim's clone added, stepping into the room. "I've enjoyed working for Luther and wouldn't mind being part of his think tank. But alas, while I can recall your memories well enough to play the part, I cannot truly replace you." "I think I'm just one of a kind," the real Tim snarked. "Luther, one chance. Set us free. I have no doubt the rest of the bats are in tow if Black Bat is here." "No, I've made sure they'll all be occupied," Luther said, smirking. "You're welcome," the clone added. "What have you done?" "Oh, just some really mean things. Don't worry, none of them have been harmed. Physically." "What have you done?" Watching Tim and his clone go back and forth, arguing wasn't productive and was only giving the guards more time to surround them, so Cass stepped forward and said, "Enough. You stay out of this, Black Bat. You're not smart enough to be part of this conversation." Cass froze, but the real Tim began cracking up. "Oh my god, seriously, Luther, how stupid did you make these clones?" "What?" the clone asked. "You insulted Black Bat?" "I've been insulting your family all day. One measly vigilante is nothing. I bet I can find a reason to tear her down just like I did the rest of the people in your life." "Ra's al Ghul's sister," Tim said simply, and Cass could see the moment the clone remembered what Tim was talking about. He tensed up. "She saved you from that?" "Yeah, she did. Black Bat is not someone you ever insult because it's a good way to end up in the hospital. But also, she's the one person in my family I could never tear down." Luckily, Tim had moved close enough and dropped his volume enough that only Cass the clone and Luther could hear. The geniuses and guards were too far away. "No matter what, because if she is willing to save me from that, then I owe her whatever she wants, forever." The clone gulped. "I'm sorry for insulting you, Miss Blackbat." "I'm sorry, I'm missing something here," Lex chimed in. "Blackbat is the reason that Tim's memories are not significantly more traumatizing," the clone explained. "And there's a lot of trauma in this guy's head to begin with. I refuse to insult her again." "Good," Cass replied, finally moving. Saving Tim had never been a question. Of course she wouldn't let him go through that. But she appreciated how much she appreciated it. "Now I deal with guards. You deal with clones." "Got it," the real Tim said as Cass moved to defeat the guards as quickly as she could. It took her a full minute, but by the time she was done, Tim's clone was out cold and Luther was backing away. "Luther!" Cass called out. The man froze, then turned to look at her. Cass picked up a baton that a guard had dropped and walked towards him. When she was close enough, thanks to Tim helping hold him still as she got nearer, she gently bopped him on the head. "No more clones," she said quietly. "You do not control me," Luther replied, trying to maintain his authority in this situation. She bopped him a bit harder this time. "No more clones." Her voice was louder, stronger. I can make as many clones as I damn well please. No more clones. She put just enough strength into the hit that it would hurt without knocking him out. You cannot assault me with a baton. It's elite vigilante. Fine. If I promise to stop making clones, will you stop hitting me? Cass nodded once. Then I shall stop. Really? Tim said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. He does it again. Coma. Cass shrugged. No more clones in coma. Tim chuckled. All right, Luther, watch your back. Luther looked petrified. Cass smiled, then raised the baton once more. Knock out this time, though. No, wait. Luther tried to protest, but he was already unconscious. Night-night. Tim chuckled, then picked up his clone and threw him over his shoulder. All right, folks, he said, returning to the geniuses. Let's get you home. Chapter 5. Tim. Summary. Tim comes home. Tim was glad to be home. He delivered all his fellow captives home and let them decide what to do with their clones. All of the clones besides Tim's hadn't been made to be evil. They were meant to be perfect copies. So every single one of the geniuses had ended up deciding that it meant that they had a brand new twin or a body double for when they needed to be in two places at once. Tim was proud of them for it. His own clone, on the other hand, was a bit more of a problem. They kept him sedated all week, but having an evil version of Tim running around was never a good thing, even if he didn't have Tim's intelligence, because he had access to all kinds of dangerous secrets. Oh well, problem for another day. His issue right now was returning home and dealing with the mess his clone had left behind. Cass had already shown him the recording of the call to Dick, and he'd seen the text on his phone that his clone had sent. There was definitely some damage control in his immediate future. Hey everyone, we're back, Tim announced as he walked into the cave. Laying his clone on the cot Alfred had already prepared in the center of the room. Look, Tim! Steph exclaimed, tackle hugging him. He only barely managed to stay upright. Jeez, don't do that to me again. I was so scared I wouldn't get to see you again. I'm sorry, Steph. And all of you. I'm sorry about this. Timothy, it was not your fault that you were kidnapped and cloned. We are lucky Oracle noticed your unexpected movement and sent Blackbat to rescue you. But our failing to save you sooner or notice you were kidnapped rather than thinking you'd willingly left is not your fault. Damie, did you just call me Timothy? Damien blushed. It has come to my attention during your absence that my treatment of you has been subpar. I apologize. I also apologize for the murder attempts. I swear I will not make an attempt on your life of my own free will ever again. Tim blinked. Thank you, Damien, but it's not that big of a deal. I've already moved on from it. Whether you moved on or not is irrelevant to my need to make amends. It was my fault. It is my duty to fix it. Until you feel like you can completely and truly forgive me, no strings attached, and no expectation of repeated behavior, then I will not have made it up to you. Wow. Thank you, Damien. You're most welcome, Timothy. Yeah, kid. I'm also sorry for the murder attempts, Jason said. It was just one, Tim replied. But thank you. I can't imagine you felt like I wasn't trying to kill you now and again. But yeah, sorry. Thank you, Jason. Jeez. I heard the call and I know what was said, but I didn't realize how much of a number my clone did on you all. Damn. I didn't try and kill you, but I also owe you an apology, Dick chimed in. I'm sorry for all the stuff the clone said. All that and more. I should have been treating you better for a long time instead of letting you isolate yourself enough that I could genuinely believe you were leaving us behind. That changes today. We're going to be better, I promise. I look forward to it, Tim said with a smile. Good siblings, Cash chimed in. I look forward to some emotional competence in this house, Duke added with a small laugh. Things were looking up for Tim Drake. Who knew getting kidnapped and cloned by Lex Luthor could change his life for the better? Hey kids, I'm home. Why is there a second Tim tied to the table? What do you mean you're interrogating him on ways to treat Tim better? Hey Steph, it's Bernard again. I know it's been less than 24 hours, but any updates? So, you totally called it. I know when I said text him and see what he says, it was ominous, but thank you for going along with it and for telling me he usually doesn't call you sweetie. That was a big help. Turns out he was cloned by Lex Luthor. Apparently, Tim's reputation as the genius 17-year-old CEO precedes him, and Lex wanted his intelligence. Yikes, is he okay? Yeah, he's on his way home. He just traveled around the world to drop off the other kidnapped geniuses first. Text him again, he should reply. Thanks. Oh, and how did you end up suspicious enough to ask me to text him? No, I wasn't. He was trying to cut off everyone, and I wanted to see if he'd reply to you. It was only when you said something that I realized it might not actually be Tim. Oh, wow. Well, I appreciate you keeping me up to date. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye, Bernard. Notes. And that's it. Thanks for reading, folks. Chapter uploaded 8/31/2024. More notes. If you enjoyed or have any feedback whatsoever, please leave a comment. Bryn loves knowing what people are thinking when they read their work. If you want to check out other fanfiction they've written, check the Brynthewriter series that this work is in. They do mostly DC and DP XDC stuff, but they might branch out at some point. If you want updates on what they're working on or to see what prompts have piqued their interest this week, go follow their main Tumblr blog at op-sys-chaos. And look at the tag. I'm either writing this or begging you to send me your version. If you want to just see updates on what they're writing, go and check out at Brynthewriter on Tumblr, which is their writing blog. They have posts you can follow to get updates and posts you can leave notes on to discuss their stuff. In addition to fanfiction, they're also working on an additional superhero novel called Aegis. I hope that's how you pronounce it. They have a prologue up and they're fleshing out character backstories as short stories. There's more details on their Tumblr blogs. Check the pinned post on either one. They also write short original works based on normal writing prompts, and you can check out all of their original works on StoryForge. Thanks for reading. And that's Bryn's note. I did edit all of it to be Bryn because I didn't want to say it all in the I point because I don't want to make any misunderstandings. This is not my work. Bryn, the writer on AO3, wrote this. And go check them out on other things. They are an amazing writer. Check them out. They're amazing. They have many other works that are actually amazing. And assuming you listen to all this, there may be varying audio qualities. That's because this entire time, every chapter, I have messed with settings on my microphone that I just got. And this entire work, because it's so short, was just my way of experiencing with different audio qualities and making notes on it. But it is a wonderful short work. Leave kudos to the author.